Aquarius director thought policies didn't apply to him. I forwarded his email chain to legal. The relentless drizzle of Seattle was Eleanor Vance's constant companion, a soft, melancholic hum against her apartment window in Belltown. Her life, much like the city's weather, possessed a quiet predictability, a steady rhythm of purpose and diligence. Mornings began with a strong black coffee from a small cafe on 2nd Avenue, followed by the familiar commute to Aegis Solutions, a sprawling tech consulting firm nestled amidst the glass and steel canyons of downtown. Eleanor, at 38, was a senior HR manager, a role she'd cultivated with meticulous care over a decade. Her office, a neat, functional space overlooking Puget Sound, was her sanctuary. She prided herself on fairness, on fostering an environment where employees felt valued and processes were transparent. Her work was her anchor, a source of quiet satisfaction. She spent her evenings engrossed in classic literature, or sometimes braving the rain for a contemplative walk along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting on the dark, churning waters. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, respectable, and most importantly, aligned with her unwavering sense of integrity. Then Julian Thorne arrived. Julian was the quintessential corporate golden boy. Charismatic, silver-tongued, with an impressive track record from a rival firm. He was brought in to spearhead the Aquarius project, a highly anticipated, multi-million-dollar venture destined to redefine Aegis's market position. From the moment he strode through the gleaming lobby, an aura of self-importance preceded him, a cologne of ambition and unshakable confidence. He quickly cultivated a team of fiercely loyal, mostly younger employees, drawn to his audacious vision and boundless energy. Eleanor's initial encounters with Julian were cordial, if a little superficial. He'd flash a dazzling smile, offer a dismissive compliment, and sweep past, leaving behind a faint scent of expensive cologne and an unsettling sense of being observed, yet not truly seen. The first red flags appeared subtly, like cracks in a perfectly painted wall. Expense reports for lavish client dinners that blurred the lines of company policy. Requests for accelerated approvals on hires without proper vetting. Dismissive comments about bureaucracy during team meetings, subtly undermining the very structures Eleanor worked tirelessly to maintain. She initiated polite, professional conversations, sending carefully worded emails citing company guidelines, offering to clarify any ambiguities. Julian's responses were always charmingly evasive, replete with phrases like, "Eleanor, my dear, we're disrupting, not just developing." Or, sometimes, "You have to break a few eggs for the omelet right." He treated HR policies not as essential safeguards, but as minor inconveniences designed for lesser mortals. The situation escalated. Julian began bypassing HR entirely, making unilateral decisions about team structure, compensation, and even employee disciplinary actions, directly contradicting established protocols. His team, emboldened by his perceived invincibility, adopted a similar dismissive attitude. The Aquarius project, while showing promising early results, became an island within Aegis Solutions, operating by its own set of unwritten, ever-shifting rules. Eleanor found herself increasingly isolated, her authority chipped away with each blatant disregard for company policy. She held firm, sending increasingly stern reminders, scheduling mandatory training sessions that Julian's team conveniently missed. Her colleagues in other departments started giving her sympathetic glances, knowing she was fighting a losing battle against a man deemed too valuable to touch. The moment of public humiliation arrived on a crisp Tuesday morning in October. The quarterly all-hands meeting for the Aquarius project was underway in the main auditorium. Eleanor had been invited to present a crucial update on new compliance regulations that directly impacted project management and data security. Julian, seated at the head table, had been smirking throughout her presentation, exchanging whispers with his protege, a young, ambitious project lead named Ben Carter. As Eleanor concluded, inviting questions, Julian leaned into the microphone, his voice dripping with condescension. Thank you, Aliner, for that thorough overview of the granular details. While we appreciate the academic exercise, I think the Aquarius team is more focused on actual innovation, not navigating a labyrinth of theoretical constraints. A ripple of suppressed laughter ran through the room, mostly from Julian's team. He continued, his gaze fixed on Aliner, a predatory glint in his eyes. We're building the future here, Aliner. And frankly, the future doesn't wait for HR handbooks. He then turned to Ben, gesturing dismissively towards Aliner. Ben, I believe you have an update on our Q4 projections that's a bit more relevant. The air in the auditorium thickened, heavy with Aliner's mortification. Her cheeks burned. She felt every single pair of eyes on her, a collective pity mixed with the smug satisfaction of Julian's cronies. She managed a strained smile, gathered her notes, and walked off the stage, her professionalism a thin veneer over a core of searing shame. Back in her office, the cool, metallic scent of rain outside did little to calm the firestorm raging within her. The quiet hum of her computer, usually a comforting backdrop, now felt like a mocking drone. She collapsed into her chair, the carefully constructed composure of years crumbling around her. Tears, hot and bitter, streamed down her face, blurring the familiar cityscape outside her window. It wasn't just the public humiliation, it was the utter disregard for her role, for the entire HR department, for the very principles she believed in. Her hands trembled as she typed a meaningless report, her mind replaying Julian's mocking words, the sniggers from the audience. Was she truly just a purveyor of theoretical constraints? Had her entire career been reduced to a granular detail by a man whose ego was as boundless as his ambition? A profound weariness settled over her, a deep, soul-crushing despair. For a moment, the thought of simply resigning, walking away from Aegis Solutions, from Julian Thorne, from this entire charade, seemed overwhelmingly appealing. She questioned everything: her competence, her dedication, her very presence in a corporate world that seemed to reward arrogance over integrity. But beneath the initial despair, a flicker ignited. A cold, steady flame fueled by years of quiet observation and meticulous record-keeping. Aliner Vance wasn't a spontaneous reactor, she was an archivist. For months, ever since Julian's pattern of policy disregard became undeniable, she had been systematically documenting every infraction. It wasn't out of malice, but a professional necessity, a safeguard. She had started a hidden folder on her secure server, labeled innocuous-sounding, Project Compliance Review Aquarius. Inside, she meticulously filed every email from Julian that demonstrated his dismissive attitude towards corporate governance. Every instance where he explicitly stated his intention to circumvent HR or legal protocols. Every forwarded message from his team echoing his sentiments. She had the full email chain of his unapproved hiring decisions, the trail of his questionable expense reports, his direct instructions to bypass compliance checks. She had his dismissive replies to her own polite inquiries, even screenshots of internal chat messages where he openly mocked HR. It was a digital tapestry woven from his own hubris, a self-incriminating narrative of a man who believed the rules simply didn't apply to him. This was her hidden advantage. Not power, not influence, but irrefutable evidence. She knew the company's internal policies inside out, especially the stringent clauses regarding ethical conduct, compliance, and fiduciary responsibility. She knew exactly which individuals held the real power to address such systemic violations. Mark Jenkins, the general counsel, a man known for his unyielding adherence to legal standards, and Sarah Chen, the VP of HR, a tough but fair executive who valued integrity above all else. They were her targets, the only people within Aegis Solutions with the authority and the mandate to act. Aliner felt a chilling calm descend upon her. The tears had dried, replaced by a steely resolve. This wasn't about petty revenge. It was about upholding the very principles that Julian Thorne had so casually trampled. It was about justice, not just for herself, but for the company she had dedicated years of her life to, and for the countless employees who silently resented Julian's unchecked arrogance. She would not just forward an email, she would present an airtight case. The next morning, a leaner arrived at her office an hour earlier than usual. The city was still shrouded in a pre-dawn gloom, the office lights a beacon against the gray. She meticulously reviewed her compiled evidence, cross-referencing dates, policies, and personnel involved. Each document, each email, was a silent testament to Julian's escalating disregard. She drafted a comprehensive memo, not one filled with emotional accusations, but a dry, factual report outlining the specific policy violations, the dates, the direct impact on compliance, and the potential legal and reputational risks to Aegis Solutions. She attached key excerpts from the employee handbook, clearly showing how Julian's actions contravened established guidelines. The bulk of the memo, however, was dedicated to a meticulously organized compilation of Julian's email chain, a chronological narrative of his hubris, documented in his own words. She included the emails where he explicitly stated his team would operate outside HR's purview, the one where he instructed a subordinate to find a loophole for an unapproved vendor, and the particularly damning exchange where he scoffed at a data privacy regulation, calling it unnecessary red tape for the real innovators. The full email chain, totaling hundreds of pages if printed, laid bare his systemic arrogance. With a deep, steadying breath, Eliner attached the compiled documents and the comprehensive memo to an email. The subject line was succinct and professional. Urgent. Systemic policy violations, Project Aquarius Director, Julian Thorne. Her recipients were Mark Jenkins, the General Counsel, and Sarah Chen, the VP of HR. She hit send. The click of the mouse echoed in the silent office, a small sound with immense gravity. There was no immediate sense of triumph, only a profound exhaustion. The weight of months of silent observation and suppressed frustration finally lifted. She leaned back in her chair, watching the first weak rays of sunrise attempt to pierce the ubiquitous Seattle clouds. The corporate machine, once put in motion, grinds slowly but inexorably. Within hours, Eliner received an email from Mark Jenkins, terse and to the point. Eliner, thank you for this. I've initiated a full review. Please remain available. Sarah Chen called her directly, her voice calm but firm. Eliner, I appreciate your courage and diligence. We'll handle this internally and professionally. Do not discuss this with anyone. The company's internal investigation team moved swiftly and discreetly. They interviewed key personnel, but the real star witness was the digital paper trail Eliner had so assiduously created. Julian Thorne, initially dismissive, quickly found himself cornered. His charm and bluster were useless against the cold, hard facts of his own written words. He tried to discredit Eliner, to paint her as a disgruntled employee, but her professional reputation and the unimpeachable evidence rendered his attempts futile. The consequences were swift and severe. Julian Thorne was placed on administrative leave within a week, his access to Aegis systems revoked. The Aquarius project, momentarily rudderless, underwent a drastic restructuring. Less than a month after Eliner's email, an internal memo circulated. Julian Thorne had been separated from the company, effective immediately, due to violations of company policy and ethical conduct guidelines. The wording was understated, but the message was clear. The king of Aquarius had fallen. Eliner felt a complex mix of emotions. There was a sense of profound vindication, a quiet satisfaction that justice had been served and that her integrity had been upheld. But there was also a lingering weariness, the emotional toll of carrying such a burden for so long. The office atmosphere, for a time, was palpably tense, a mixture of shock and hushed relief. Julian's loyalists were noticeably subdued, while many others offered Eliner quiet nods of respect, a few even expressing their gratitude for her courage. Sarah Chen personally commended Eliner, acknowledging her meticulous work and unwavering commitment to Aegis's values. Her position, once seemingly tenuous under Julian's shadow, was now solidified, strengthened by her display of unwavering professionalism. Eleanor continued her work, the Seattle rain still drumming softly against her window. The quiet predictability of her life had been disrupted, but it had also been reaffirmed. She had faced down arrogance with integrity, and in the quiet aftermath, she found a new, deeper sense of purpose in the steadfastness of her own principles. The hum of the city, once melancholic, now felt like a testament to resilience, a testament to the quiet power of standing firm when others faltered. The email chain had done its work, and Eleanor Vance, the meticulous archivist, had ensured that policies indeed applied to everyone.